Welcome to Old Book Time Traveler. Journey with me as we take a look back in history with our old books. These are books that were published prior to the 1900s. Today we have an old school primer. We're going to take a look at that book really quickly just so you can see this particular gem that was found. We found this in a little local consignment shop, and it's called A Pictorial History of the United States. This is with notices of other portions of America by S.G. Goodrich, author of Peter Parley's Tales, and it's for the use of schools, revised and improved edition. This was out of Philadelphia, published by Soren and Ball and Samuel Agnew. Number 42 North 4th Street, 1847. So, interesting condition we found this in. It has some smoke damage, but hopefully you'll be able to see some of the fun and interesting drawings, as well as take a look at and listen to the history as I read it to you. So let's take a look at the preface to the revised edition. When I first read this, I thought it was really interesting, so hopefully you do too. This work was originally undertaken with a view of furnishings to our schools a history of the United States, at once so simple in style and arrangement as to be easily comprehended, and so full in its details as to convey some just impression of the great subject of which it treats. Its reception by the public has greatly surpassed the expectations of the author, and he consequently feels a desire as well as an obligation to take advantage of an opportunity offered by the publishers to bestow upon the work a careful revision. Accordingly, in the present edition, such errors as have come to the knowledge of the author have been corrected, and with a view of consistency in the chronology, the dates throughout have been made conformable to the new style. Conformable to the new style. That every error and defect is even now removed is more than may be hoped, and the author can only say that any suggestion made with a view of the improvement to the work will be received with thanks. In regards to arrangement and treating of the history of the United States, two plans have been adopted. One called ethnographic, which presents each settlement or colony separately, and one called chronographic, which blends the several subjects in one general view and carries them all forward with advance of years. In the present work, the author has adopted the plan, followed by Bancroft and other leading writers upon our national history, a combination of the two systems so far as to secure the advantages of both. Thus, for instance, Virginia is presented by itself, that is, ethnography, till the proper time arrives to inform the reader that another colony consisting of a kindred people is established upon the same continent. The history of this is then taken up and pursued to a convenient point when the account of Virginia is resumed. It is easy to see that by this course the distinctness of the ethnographic arrangement is secured, while the equally important advantage of just general views is preserved. The absurdity of treating our history upon a rigid system of ethnographic arrangement is obvious when we consider that it would carry the reader forward in the account of Virginia more than 150 years in ignorance of the important fact that other colonies were springing up along the Atlantic border during this period, thus laying the foundation for a great nation, in which Virginia itself was finally to be merged. Such an arrangement results in a series of distinct histories, and so far as our national history is concerned, proceeds upon a radical error, inasmuch as regards to the separate colonies as distinct nations and tribes. It may be well, however, in studying the following work for the pupil after he reaches the period of the French and Indian War at page 69, or when he has gone through the book, to turn back and review the history of the individual's colonies ethnographically, that is, by tracing continuously the history of Virginia, then the history of New England, then the history of New York, etc. By turning to the table of contents, he can easily make out this course, and thus both a general and particular view of our early national history may be rendered familiar to his mind. It will be perceived that the author has added to the present edition an exploratory and pronouncing dictionary of proper names. The teacher will see the advantage of turning the attention of the pupil to this, and asking him questions upon it as occasion may require. At page 335, a brief notice of events which have recently occurred in the United States will be found. And this says, entered according to the Act of Congress in the year 1843 by S.G. Goodrich in the clerk's office of the District of Massachusetts, printed by T.K. and P.J. Collins. You see here we have the table of contents. There's an introduction with chapters listed out here through pages, and then it breaks it out by the United States, the various rebellions and battles, it looks like. So we'll certainly read through these as we go. On the table of contents, other portions of North America, covering Mexico, Guatemala, Texas, British possessions in North America, the polar regions in the West Indies, and then South America as well. Interesting. It also mentioned page 335. Let's go there and see. Oh, some general views, public improvements. Interesting. And here's the information about Mexico, Guatemala, and so forth. So as you can see, it's a beautiful book. Unfortunately, it was damaged. It looked to be in really good, pretty good shape, even though it's been damaged by smoke. You can see I paid $4. So let's get into this. Let's start by reading Chapter 1, an introduction, the progress of history. 1. In the following pages, we propose to give a history of the United States with some account of other portions of America. History is a recital of what happened respecting nations and countries, and Histories of America will be account of the most interesting events that have occurred in the New World. All of our readers know that the history of mankind begins with Adam and Eve almost 6,000 years ago, that their descendants spread over Asia first, then over Africa, then over Europe. At what time mankind began to settle in Europe, we cannot precisely tell. We only know that about 1,856 years BC, or about 3,700 years ago, a man by the name of Ignace led a company of immigrants from Egypt into Greece. Now I'm going to have to apologize in advance. I don't know a lot of these names. These found the country inhabited by savages, who no doubt were the descendants of those who had wandered there from Asia. Inachus and his companions established themselves in Greece, and from that point of time Europe gradually became occupied by civilized people. Thus the 3/4 of the globe were settled, and as they all lay together in one continent, mankind acquired a general, though still imperfect, notion of their shape and extent. So before we finish that paragraph, I wanted to let you know that it had mentioned that questions were being posed for the pupil, and in Chapter 1, some of the questions are: what is history? When and where does history begin? In what order were the different quarters of the world settled? What is the settlement of Europe? Why did mankind soon get a general notion of the geography of Europe, Asia, and Africa? And as you can see, it has these questions on the bottom of most of these pages. But back to our paragraph, But America was separated from Asia by the Pacific Ocean, almost 10,000 miles across, and from Europe and Africa by the Atlantic, about 3,000 miles across. Of America, therefore, the people knew nothing. The ships in old times were small, ill-built, and feeble compared with the ships of the present day. The people did not know the shape of the world. The art of navigation was in its infancy, and even the mariner's compass, that mysterious but steadfast friend of the mariner, was not invented till about the year 1242. The crossing of wide oceans was therefore a thing that could not be done. Navigators seldom dared to stretch forth upon the boundless sea. They only ventured to creep carefully along the shores, always keeping the land in sight. As navigation improved, mankind grew more adventurous upon the sea, and by degrees their knowledge of the world, its seas and oceans, its shores and continents, was so far increased that the Old World, or the Eastern Hemisphere, was terribly well understood. The idea had also occurred to many individuals that the great oceans probably contained large masses of yet undiscovered land. It seems to be the course of Providence to make a gradual development of that knowledge which is important to man, and when any great revelation or any great discovery is needful, the means of effecting the desired object are provided. The time had at length arrived for dispelling the mystery which had hitherto brooded over the mighty seas, and Christopher Columbus, the instrument of accomplishing this great work, was born and trained for his career. It was he who not only discovered America, but made it known to the people of the eastern continent. The discovery was so new, vast, and surprising that the land he found seemed like another world, and accordingly it was called the New World. Chapter 2. A Geographical Sketch of America. Before we proceed to recount the history of America, it would be well to fix definitely in our minds an outline of its geography. As history has details what things have happened, geography informs us where they happened. It is impossible to have a clear idea of the former without a knowledge of the latter. On the succeeding page is a map of America, which you observe lies between Europe and Africa on the east and Asia on the west. The Pacific Ocean is 10,000 miles across in the widest part, and the Atlantic about 3,000 miles. Columbus had to cross this latter ocean to find America. The continent of America consists of two great masses of land united by a narrow strip of land called the Isthmus of Darien. The southern portion is called South America, the northern North America, the West Indies, consisting of the great number of fine and fruitful islands, lies almost between North and South America, and it was these that Columbus first discovered. The whole length of the American continent is about 9,000 miles, or a little more than 1/3 of the circumference of the globe, which is about 25,000 miles. The figure below will show this. The whole length of the eastern continent from north to south is about 7,000 miles. The surface of the earth is supposed to contain nearly 200 million of square miles. About 3/4, or 150 million, are water, and the rest, 50 million, are land. The following table shows that America contains little less than 1/3 of all the land on the globe. The eastern continent has about 31 million square miles of land. The western continent has about 15 million square miles. The islands of the Pacific about 4 million square miles. America is distinguished for the grand scale upon which its natural features are formed. It has the largest masses of freshwater lakes, the most extensive valleys, by far the largest rivers, the largest range of mountains, and the loftiest volcanoes on the globe. The tallest peaks of the Andes are nearly equal in elevation to the loftiest of the old continent. The climate of America is a little colder than that of the eastern hemisphere. The vegetation is nearly the same. The original animals of America differ in species from those of the eastern world. We have here no native elephant, rhinoceros, hippopotamus, giraffe, tiger, leopard, or lion. Our domestic animals, with the single exception of the dog and turkey, are wholly of European origin. Chapter 3. Political divisions of America. The present divisions of North America are as follows: the United States, Mexico, Guatemala, Russian possessions, Greenland, Iceland, British possessions, including the Canadas, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and a vast unoccupied country to the north, which passes under the name of New Britain. The United States contain nearly 2 million of square miles, the British America something more. The United States, Mexico, and Guatemala are independent countries with republican governments, and other portions are under the control of European powers. South America contains Peru, Ecuador, Venezuela, New Granada, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentine Republic, and Uruguay. All of these are independent republics. Besides these, there is Brazil, which is governed by an emperor, Paraguay under the successors of the dictator, Francia, Guyana, which belongs to several European powers, and Patagonia, which is only inhabited by tribes of savages. The West India Islands are divided between various European governments, only one of them, Haiti, being independent. The principal islands are Cuba, belonging to Spain, and Jamaica, belonging to the Great Britain. The whole population of America may be estimated at about 45 million. Of these, the largest portion are white people or the descendants of Europeans. There are, however, a good many Indians, some partially civilized and others still maintaining their wild independence. There are also several million Negroes, mostly slaves, and many belonging to a mixture of the white and dark races. Chapter 4. A bird's eye view of the American history of America. The discovery of Columbus about 350 years ago first made the civilized part of mankind acquainted with America. The people then occupying the country had no books and only very imperfect modes of recording events. Of their history prior to the discovery of Columbus we know but little. The history of America chiefly lies within the compass of the last 350 years. It shows us that this continent was discovered by Columbus under a commission from the King of Spain, who claimed it as belonging to the Spanish crown, all lands discovered by ships sailing under the flag of that country. Soon after Columbus had revealed his great discovery to Europe, many adventurers came hither, chiefly in search of gold, silver, and precious stones, which were supposed to be very abundant here. Many of these adventurers had commissions from the King of Spain, and several of them were supplied by him with ships, money, and soldiers, the purpose of which was to conquer and take possession of the different parts of the country of Spain. Thus Mexico was conquered by the bloody Cortez, Peru by the cruel and remorseless Pizarro, and Chile by Almagro. Other portions were seized by other leaders until the southern part of North America, 2/3 of South America, and the finest of the West India Islands were within the grasp of the King of Spain. The Portuguese seized upon Brazil, the French upon Canada, the mouth of the Mississippi and some of the West Indies, and England upon the Atlantic coast of North America. Other European powers picked here and there in the scramble, seizing upon such parts and pieces as they could get. Thus America became the spoil of European kings, who seized upon the lands and conquered or destroyed the native inhabitants according to their interest or pleasure. The whole proceeding took place in a dark age, and under one great and melancholy error, which was this, that uncivilized people are heathen, and consequently enemies of God, and whom it is therefore right to subdue, enslave, or kill, as many be deemed convenient by Christian men. Thus it happened that the wars against the natives in America were generally carried on under the sanction of the Christian religion. The Indians were massacred by millions in the name of Jesus Christ. Whole empires were devastated by those who went forth preaching and praying and performing all the rites and ceremonies of the church. The chief elements of the history of America consist in 6 general topics, which are as follows. First, its discovery. Second, its participation between different European powers. Third, the wars with the Indians. Fourth, the wars among the European powers which involved the American colonies. Fifth, the struggles of the colonies for independence. And sixth, the general progress of wealth and civilization. In the following pages, we shall endeavor to give a view of these topics, devoting the largest space to the United States, which present not only the most interesting, but by far the most instructive pages of history. I think we'll stop there today, and we'll begin next time with the Discoveries of the Northmen, Chapter 5. Might be an interesting read to learn about the Northmen and their coming to America. So join me next time. This is OB from Old Book Time Traveler. Hope to see you. Please leave a comment down below if you like this book, or if you'd like us to read other books, or in general, your time traveling experiences through old books. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.